Hello, everybody, and welcome. Tiki Tuesday Talks. Thanks for starting a little later with us at an early morning flight. We had to reschedule a little bit here, but we're here, and we got a little echo effect, which is always fun. Let's welcome the crew. Chelsea, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
How's it going? How's Baltimore?
It's hot, but it's lovely. We got a nice breeze.
Nice.
Could be worse.
Is that the breeze? That's the breeze you're feeling? Is
Yeah.
Aaron waving his
Aaron
hand?
was actually just fanning the whole city from down the harbor.
That's impressive. That's impressive. Right on. And you're at home right now? What do we got going on in the background?
Yeah, I'm home. I got some Appleton in the background.
Nice.
Yeah, we love our sponsors. What else do I have? I got there's a bunch of weird paraphernalia back there. Let's go O's, the most painful baseball team to love.
I mean, I'm a Cubs fan, so I wish you would.
They're about the same.
Yeah, they're the same.
Yeah.
Actually, no, the Cubs are better because they've won recently.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's true. Nice stadium, though. You guys really have a nice stadium there, Camden Yards.
Yeah, it's I would argue one of the best in the country.
I would agree
really
with that, and I have no horse in the race. Jose,
It's also
what's going
pretty
on?
nice. You can still get a cheap.
What's going on?
yeah, it's hard to do that in many places. Where are you calling from? What's going on over there?
Well, we're in Birmingham here. I think Steva is also in my house.
This is the first time we've had two people from the same city in pairs on the show.
It's a magical day.
It is. It feels magical. Feels special right now. How's your Birmingham world?
You know, it's hot. It's about to get real hot.
I think I beat you guys on the heat. I'll tell you what it is here right now. Hold on. Yep, 91.
Yeah, you got us beat.
yeah, it's only 75 here.
But when it's humid, real humid, I don't know.
Oh yeah,
we
have an
have
impending
no
rainstorm.
humidity here. Awesome, Steva, you're rocking the Caribbean. I just saw it.
Always and forever.
Did I send you that picture? I took a picture for you. I was there a week ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
No, you didn't send it to me.
Yeah, snapped a photo to capture it in all its glory. Still looks great.
Did you find out who the new owner's going to be?
No, I didn't do that. I wasn't on that mission. But is it this year?
I mean, she put it up for
we
sale.
don't know yet.
Listen,
right,
I got 5 on it, so you figure it out.
Hey, let's get it together. We got a group of people here. We could put together a team.
Right?
You know, Aaron's gonna put the money down for us. He's got it. He's got all that cane money in it. You know,
All that cane money, that sugar money.
Yeah,
Sugar money.
yeah, exactly. I see you got a nice plant growth happening there. It's looking good coming down the corner. I got mine right here.
Yeah, you know, there you go. There you go. Steva's got hers. I mean, you know, I'm glad to see.
We're all doing it.
Oh my God.
All right. I guess we should get down to business here. Let's talk about some things. So Chelsea is going to be chatting about, so you want to be a consultant, best practices and things to consider for people kind of in it, looking to get in it, looking to get better at it. You know, and I think it's actually super timely that we're having this conversation as a lot of the world is opening up. Many people are realizing, you know, they potentially need someone to step in and put something together for them. So super excited for the content here. As usual, chat box and questions, hit us up, Facebook, Zabby, etc. Happy to look at those. Please do share the event. Presentation 30 to 40 minutes, cocktail session, and then 5 questions with Jose. Little background on Chelsea, owner and consultant, Drinkable Genius, consultant, cocktailian, educator in the hospitality industry for years, founded the company Drinkable Genius in 2015, a consultancy focused on supporting business owners and building new restaurant, beverage programs, managing profitability, ever important, and service standards, and streamlining existing processes to maximize their efforts, particularly amidst the pandemic. Always the bartender Chelsea, passionate about using cocktails and hospitality to generate community and opportunity for others. Named an Eater Young Gun in 18, Esquire Beverage Director of the Year 2019, among other best bartender honors. Baltimore native, as we talked about, Masters of Fine Arts and Theological Studies. Oh, that's interesting. We'll have to talk about that. Their experience in building religious communities has defined a holistic approach to career development, equitable systems, and welcoming spaces. Partner in the soon-to-come Cocktail Bar Church, which is launching in 2021, date TBD, as we discussed earlier. So look forward to hearing more about that.
Yeah, maybe it's my consultant background that keeps me from, keeps me both optimistic and cautious.
I used to be really excited to tell people when I was going to launch something, and then I realized it's really hard to hit the date, and then they're just on you, and you just feel bad, So, I can relate. Anyway, we'll catch the rest of you guys later. See you shortly. Let's get down to business here.
Yeah.
Talk about ground rules.
Yeah. So, like Peter said, use the chat box and get in there with your questions. There is the main ground rules here is there's never such a thing as a stupid question, particularly when you're talking about starting your own business or freelancing. There's a lot of mysteries and a lot of choosing your own adventure. So, I'm going to talk about things that I've done. I'm going to make suggestions of things that I have not done, but I've seen done. And it's kind of, these are just some general best practices for yourself as you prepare to get into it. And a great thing to remember is I don't have all the answers. There are lots and lots of consultants out there. There are consultants that have different they focus on different things. They work in different realms. And so the great and also terrifying thing about working in freelance, working for yourself is really that you get to choose what direction you want to be focused in. So without further ado, so here are kind of our objectives for today. So I'll kind of talk a little bit about why I started consulting, because I think the origin story is kind of important. And as with all things, it makes a lot of sense to have a little bit of background on me so that when I'm talking about something and I wax poetic about something for 5 minutes, there's a little bit of a reason. Then we're going to talk about kind of the 3 B's, be prepared. So we're going to talk about the mental part of preparing to consult and staying focused. Then we're going to talk about being responsible, a little bit of the financial how-tos and those best practices. And last but not least, the organizational stuff, because it always comes in handy knowing how to be organized and keep yourself together. So here we go. I love this. We love Michael Scott. Of course, now he's freezing up. He never asked the question. There we are. Why are you the way that you are? So why am I the way that I am? I have been in the industry for a while. My background was originally in coffee and tea when I broke into hospitality, and I got really passionate about spirits and beer and wine, and then started getting passionate about making cocktails and beverage programs. And I got some experience managing, and I got some experience doing catering. And I kind of had all these small puzzle pieces, which I feel like a lot of us in hospitality have a similar experience. We're kind of, our work experience and our resume is a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle that at the end of the day, a lot of times, if you're working for somebody, you end up only using a small part of that jigsaw puzzle. Or at least you only get paid for a small part of that jigsaw puzzle, which is what I found out for myself. And so I realized I had this skill set. I had the whole puzzle that I was being asked to use, but I wasn't getting paid for. And realized, you know what, I can break out on my own. I can manage my own time, and I can choose my own adventure. so to speak, which is a terrifying prospect. And, but it's also really important to be self-aware and to kind of realize before you get to that point of like complete and utter burnout or frustration that your skill sets lie somewhere else. And so upon realizing that, I said, you know what? I'm going to work for myself. I'm going to set my own hourly rate. I'm going to set all of these parameters. I'm going to decide how much of my own time I want to give to it. And then, then it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm staying within the constraints that I've built. So a lot of the things I'm going to talk about today are hard lessons that I've had to learn personally. And there's going to be quite a few honesty moments where I'm like, I will be honest with you all and be like, I still don't have all of this together. And so I hope that that's beneficial to you. And I hope that you can take some of those lessons. And I hope that a little bit of this background, kind of really understanding what you're worth and understanding where you want to put your time and your effort, it really is an important thing. And it's an important step in your career.
One comment and then one question for you. One is that what I think is interesting about kind of running your own business is it's the blessing and the curse of dictating your whole day, right?
Yeah.
So it's amazing because you get to decide the things that you're doing and you get to make those choices yourself. But also it's a big burden because you are constantly questioning. I find, at least for myself, am I doing the right things? Am I spending my time on the right things? Or if I'm spending my time on the things that I really am not enjoying, why am I doing that? And how do I get out of it? So
right. There's a really important distinction that before you ever decide to be a consultant or freelance or whatever you want to do, when you first make the decision to work for yourself, you have to understand that you can no longer pass the buck. And all the responsibility does fall on you. And I'm not saying that to like scare anybody away from this, but maybe somebody at home was like, I want to consult, and they really don't want to want that weight and that responsibility. And I would encourage you to, listen to the rest and kind of think through that process for yourself, because that's really like the first Band-Aid you got to rip off, Yeah.
What, just a question, maybe you'll touch on it, but what was the thing, aside from saying, hey, I want to stop this before I hit the burnout point, but what was the moment for you that was really like, hey, I know I want to do this? What was the real initiation point?
It's hard to put my finger on one, which I think is going to be the case with a lot of people in our industry. We have these moments, and it may be, a sentence someone said to us, or one night at work, or a podcast we heard, and then there's like that moment where like it's like the movie montage, and all of those things play back, and you then you make the decision, right? So I guess some examples of like the come to Jesus moments for me was I worked for somebody that wasn't transparent about their tip breakdown, and that was kind of the beginning of like lighting a fire of like the justice side and transparency side of what I want to do. And then also just like the sheer amount of time I was spending on spreadsheets that nobody used. And, it was just like a overall analysis of where my energy was going and how it was being used or not used, if that helps answer the question.
Great.
Cool. So shall we get into the mental? Okay, so I break this down into a few points, but I've got sub points. I'm organized. It happens. So
great. Written word is underappreciated these days as well, I will say. I like to write things down and then put them into my digital playbook as well. But go ahead, please.
Yeah. Okay, so the first thing is really knowing and understanding your limits, because you can only charge for certain things. Then there are going to be things that you want to charge for that you really shouldn't charge for. Then there should be things that you just do for fun until you've built that out, right? So I created kind of a 4-point ranking system for my skills. And so, it's good. You're going to get used to writing a lot of lists and like kind of what I call the brain dump, because there's going to be a lot of ideas and you just kind of have to get things together and get them organized. But knowing and understanding your limits starts with saying, okay, so my skills that I have, what can I advise on? And this is AKA, what do I know a little bit about? And what can I help folks weigh pros, cons, and craft an action plan with them with the help of knowledgeable resources? A lot of consulting, and a lot of people don't realize this, is really just advising people on the best thing to do. And of course, for some of us, it's really, really exciting to write a menu, and it's really exciting to see things happen. But there's a lot of groundwork you have to lay, and you have to be able to speak in an educated manner and advise people on the best course of action more often than not. So understanding what you as an individual can advise on is really, really important. So that's number one. Number two, what am I good at? So what can I do? But I know that my skills vary on different subjects. When you get into the nitty gritty, what may slow you down, being honest with yourself about that's really important. Number three is what you're skilled at. So I can do this thing with little to no faltering to ask questions or receive clarification. So one, what can I advise on? Two, what am I good at? Three, what am I skilled at? Notice that there's different words for that. And number four is very values-based. What am I focused on? It's what can I do with my eyes closed? What have I already produced? This is going into the organizational part, but just starting to ask yourself these questions about your skills, your limits is really a great starting point, because there's also going to be a temptation when you get into consulting to want to be all things to all people. And one, if our industry is run by a bunch of people who think they can be all things to all people, then that puts a lot of people out of work, right? So we have to be honest about where we fall. Pete, if you can pull the slide back up just for 1 second. Yeah, so, that goes to the rising tide raises all ships point, right? Who does this better than I can? Because we, as freelancers, it's going to be our gut reaction to be like, no, I'll do it. But you only have so many hours in a day. And this is an opportunity for you to mention someone else's name in a room full of opportunities. So this is important. The next part of kind of getting your head in the game is to be honest.
Just pause 1 second. Sorry.
Yeah.
First of all, I love the 4-point ranking system. It kind of reminds me of some kind of business school consulting organizational thing, which I geek out on. But also, I think, look, I know we're talking about consulting here and this specific thing, but I honestly think you could apply this 4-point idea to anything you might want to do on your own in any capacity, right? Whether it's consulting or starting a business or doing whatever. And I think a lot of people don't ask themselves these things, or maybe they're not, honest with themselves about the answer to those things. But I think these are great questions to ask that everybody should ask when they're about to jump into something big.
Yeah. Intention, I think, is a good way to sum it up. Like you have to take a step back and look inwardly, look in your own brain, look in your own heart, and kind of set your intention for it, because that's the base level of everything you do from that point. So that's actually like a perfect segue, Pete, into B, which is be honest about your personality. Mm-hmm. When this goes back to when we said that there's nobody to pass the buck to, right? So you're responsible for everything that happens. You're responsible for the work that you put out. You can't pass the buck. And this goes to your personality as well. And so I kind of put this in a like 2-part question: what helps you and what hurts you? So here's like a case study of myself, right? Here's what helps me. I live and die by my calendar. I'm overly punctual. I'm extremely positive. I'm very straightforward. I'm incredibly transparent. All those things benefit me in the workplace. Here's what hurts me. And I want you to pay attention to how much longer this is, because that's really important. I have a tendency to expect the same level of dedication to a task from everyone, even if they don't have the time. I work too much and I'm quick to burn myself out. I sometimes push forward without stopping to have a conversation about someone's comfort level. Being straightforward also means that sometimes I'm brutally honest in like an unwarranted kind of way. And living and dying by my calendar gives me a bit of inflexibility. Going through that exercise with yourself is really, really important, because what helps you be successful may, as you heard, also hinder the process at some points. And if you can get ahead of that, like knowing those things about yourself and then working to get ahead of the things that hurt you, or working to like communicate that you have this tendency, makes you more transparent overall. But it also helps you just kind of communicate and set a tone for how this is going to go. And always the things that will help you be successful, make that a part of your brand. So branding is not lost here. It's very, very important, because when you work for yourself, when you are freelancing and consulting, the things that help you be successful, that's your brand. That's what you're putting out to the world. So super, super important. And remember to be honest with your clients. I'm just going to reinforce that. Be honest with your clients about your expectations for them. And that also sets a tone so that they can be honest about theirs. The last point in the mental part is when you start to get out of your head. You're still putting things in your head, but you're also like getting out of it a little bit, which is always be learning. I would be nervous if somebody answered those 4 points, those 4 questions, and then they were like, and I think I've covered everything, so I'm just gonna see you later. Everything's good. I know everything. That's like a major red flag. So the day you stop learning and growing is the day that you put a time limit on your business. If you aren't already figuring out ways to innovate your own knowledge level, then you're going to eventually hit a wall where you are no longer helpful. And that may be blunt, but it's also important. So determine how you like to consume new information. Are you a book person? Are you a podcast person? Do you want to tune into things like this? You really enjoy watching things? Do you need to go to a classroom and take formal classes in business? Understand how you consume information and then apply it, and pursue that information in a way that helps you learn, not in the way the world tells you to. That's like the big problem. Here's my soapbox moment for this point. Here's what's wrong with the American educational system. If you learned a different way than the way they wanted you to learn, then you were made to feel dumb. And that is not the case. Learn in a way that makes you feel like you are actually learning. That I'm like staring into the camera because this is so important. And if you are always learning, if you keep up this pattern, the thing that you're learning today may be a focus for you in the near future, or a new passion that you have that you bring to your clients. So this time is not wasted. It's time well spent to always be learning.
Yeah, I think it's a great point as well, because being on some other sides of the same coin, you see, a number of people who get very comfortable, think they've learned it all, frozen time, and obviously that's not how anything works, right? Everything's evolving. Products, movements, taste profiles, ingredients, like so many different elements of what it is that we all collectively do is always evolving. So I think that's a great mentality. And speaking of learning, there was a question here in the chat about whether you could share this deck with some people for the future, if we could put it up. Okay, great.
I would love to. Yeah, please share.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's be prepared. So I think right now we're game to move on to number 2. Be responsible. Money, please. That only happens when you get your finances straight. This is something that I always end up answering questions about for consultants and for people who want to be consultants, because nobody has all the answers unless that consultant literally has like an accounting background. So like there's never one size fits all. And if you are an accountant, the super fun accountant secret is that they have what is called GAAP, or generally accepted accounting principles. And the super fun thing about GAAP is that's the rules everyone follows.
There's zero fun things about it.
Well, here's the thing that we need to remember as freelancers, right? Nobody has written down GAAP. Nobody has been like, here's the book of GAAP. It's like, no, this is just like, they have a bunch of like principles and they're like, it's like the law. Can we interpret this to work? So even accounting, even people who come with an accounting background are also, it's not one size fits all. They're also doing a little choose your own adventure. So it's important to remember to do things in the way that feel right to you. That's like the way I'll kick this off. Do things in the way that you know you're following the law, you know that you're being responsible, and you're being a good steward of other people's money, because that's what we're primarily dealing in. And also, just follow your gut. If your gut says you're doing something wrong, then it may be wrong. So do some more research. Okay, so the main points about finances. Number 1, understand contracts, their implications, and put your foot down. So to break this down, your contracts, okay? Invest in a boilerplate. You don't need to necessarily hire a lawyer. This may be, this may come back to bite me, but you don't necessarily need to pay for a lawyer in order to have a contract. And I think that's a major misconception. I think people start working for themselves and they go, oh, I have to have a lawyer like draft a contract for me. And then no, you can buy these online. You can buy a template and then you can adjust it to fit your needs. So invest in a boilerplate, which is that template, modify it to fit your needs, because lawyers are not always financially feasible. There are also tons of legal resources available. If you are a freelancer, and particularly if you are writing cocktail menus, you do qualify as an artist. This is important to remember because there are an increasing number of free legal advice groups that you could just show up to one of their like fairs and ask them a bunch of legal questions. So start looking into that. Will save you a lot of money.
Yeah, that's great.
Another thing I'll say about contracts is if you don't understand your contract, the chances are your client won't either. So be straightforward, but protect yourself. Have a contract, always, no ifs, ands, or buts, but make sure that you can understand it, because then your client will understand it. B, understand your tax status. So there's a lot of debate back and forth. A lot of us are currently living the 1099 life because we aren't operating on a scale of an LLC or a corporation. Here's some kind of like rudimentary back and forth. So entity life, I could teach an entire class on it, what they are, how to navigate them. You can set your tax schedule and what you pay, but filing will happen separately from your personal taxes. So you have to have a tax accountant. Important. You will need an accountant in this setup. The 1099 life, on the other hand, which I think a lot more people are familiar with, it seems more free, but that route means you have to be super dedicated to being very organized in your personal finances. The lines between business and personal get really, really easy to cross, and it can be a danger zone. 1099 folks are under the IRS microscope. So those people are really easy to catch in blurring those lines. So if you go the 1099 route, you have to be on top of your personal finances. It is non-negotiable because an audit is a real pain. I have not had to go through one. I know people who have. It's a real, real pain. Either way, an investment you should make is QuickBooks. Self-employed is a great option. It's affordable. They have an app. You literally can categorize your expenses. You know, it will trace back to your bank account, and you swipe left for business, right for personal, and it will kind of divvy everything up. It's really affordable and really valuable. Or just get really, really organized. Spreadsheets, receipts, everything. I have a true or false question on here that often comes up in our line of work. True or false, you can expense or write off anytime you go out to eat as a freelancing consultant. If you've watched Schitt's Creek, you probably already know the answer. This is very false. And a lot of people start writing menus, they start training staff, and they go, oh yeah, I can write off every single meal I go out to. If you get audited, which if you are writing off, like you don't have something separate, you don't have an LLC or a corporation with a separate bank account, and these lines get blurred and you get audited, you have to prove to your auditor from the IRS that it led to or directly supported the creation of revenue. Otherwise, it cannot be written off. So if you take nothing else away from this conversation, that's really, really important. You can't start consulting and then go out to eat, 5 times a week and just be like, I'll write it off. How
do you even prove that? That's got to be pretty tough to prove.
It's very tough to prove.
Yeah.
So a rule of thumb is that if I am traveling for work, because business meals and meals while you're traveling for work, there's a gray area. And basically when you are traveling for the purpose of work, then there becomes the opportunity because you are networking or you are working with others, over those meals. They're 2 separate write-off items when you're doing your taxes. And so there's a gray area. I would caution everyone to get QuickBooks. Just get QuickBooks, understand how to do it, and they will help walk you through it. The last thing is, this is where everything kind of comes together. Set boundaries for how you get paid. So here are some best practices for this. Charge a deposit if it makes sense, or get paid up front. Because when you are a consultant and you're managing your own time, if you block your calendar for a client, for a meeting, for an event, whatever, it means you can't use that time for someone else. And so it's not always possible to charge a deposit or get paid up front. So working with companies that use third-party accounts payable, it just becomes a nightmare. It's virtually impossible. But if you are working one-on-one with a client, at least get a deposit, a pay schedule, and then be honest with yourself and your client about what you need. This is the place in your finances where you have the most flexibility. And what I've learned over the course of consulting is that having that flexibility and knowing when to put your foot down and say, I have to get paid for this now, or I have to get paid for this at certain intervals, your client will look on that a little bit more favorably than they will you saying, I need all of it right now, or you not knowing when you need it. So set those boundaries. Also, protect every single deliverable you write until the check is cashed. Very, very important. As somebody who consults, there are templates that I write. I modify them for individual clients, but those deliverables, until they are modified, they belong to me. And so I protect them until I get paid. Overall, you need to protect your energy. Your energy is your most valuable asset. If a client, this is why it's important to set the tone, because if a client is taking your energy, if they're sucking it out of you, you're doing more work than you are getting paid for, then you need to be able to have a conversation about that. Also, we are in the 21st century, so set up a way for clients to pay online in a safe and encrypted way or accept checks. Cash is definitely not king in consulting. Cash may have been king when we were behind a bar and we were rocking and rolling that way, but the more that you provide as safeguards for your client, that's building trust. And it also typically comes with a way for you to track things and track that income. It's really, really important. I personally use Stripe. Stripe does a lot of the payment things for many things that you don't even realize. Stripe is running the payment processing for. They're highly encrypted. They're very trustworthy. So I would look into that. Really important. So that's kind of the end of our finance section. Pete, do you have any additions?
What I'll just say is, again, being on sort of the other side, if you will, or certainly, paying a number of kind of like agencies and vendors and people. I think you're totally right about setting expectation on when are the payments, what are the, milestones that are associated with those payments. And I think when you bring that to someone, it creates, you still may negotiate it, but it creates a point of, okay, this is a negotiation. It's a serious conversation. You take it more seriously when it's presented to you that way than when it's kind of an on the fly type of arrangement. Right.
Yep. And a thing that I do is, so oftentimes when you are consulting for somebody, you have to, do an outline of the project, or you create a scope of your work. And this is where you outline, you're going to pay me this amount, but this is everything I'm going to do. And here's the general timeline. I leave my scope of work in my contract so that, and basically the contract gets amended onto the second and third and fourth page of my scope of work, because then there's a reference to say, okay, this person is asking this of me. They're setting these boundaries. This is what they're delivering. It all kind of puts everything in a big picture. And this is, like I said, the thing that helps me is I'm ultra transparent. And from the first conversation and from the first deliverable, which is your scope of work, I'm just like, I'm hell-bent on building trust and being honest with the people who pay me money. So it's really, really important to set those boundaries.
I think as well, just to echo that, scope of work within contract, it helps as you get further down the line, and maybe you honestly don't remember, like, oh, what did we include? And there's something that's written there to document it. So sometimes it's like there's a little bit of scope creep in projects that just happens naturally, and it can kind of keep everybody honest within that conversation on both sides. So I think that is 100% the best way to do it. And to your point, I mean, I personally haven't built one of these contracts, but I mean, you can find a lot of these contracts templates for free even, right? Yep. So a lot of them are not, it's a pretty simple document. It's not a very elaborate legal document. And to your point, it just really needs to set the main components of the terms and of the parties involved. So I think it makes all the sense to do all those things for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I did not include this in my presentation, but this is, if there is something else that you absolutely have to take from this, we just went through 18 months of a global pandemic and there's no end in sight. There needs to be a force majeure clause in your contracts. Like, absolutely. My wife and I are both freelancers. We both work for ourselves. And she looked at me at some point last year. I don't remember when it was. And she was like, this is it. We're living in a force majeure right now. This is the opportunity. We do have a question from the chat. Protection of your deliverables. The main protection is that you only give people bits and pieces, and you do not give. This is also part of your contract, right? So I say, I'm going to build out all these things. We are, paying in certain increments. We might have a shared Google Drive folder. I often don't put things in that folder until I know that it's ready to go and I know that they're paying on time. But I would also just not give the full deliverable, leave things out, or, kind of in the trust building part of working with a client, that it's really, really important to know where you've set your boundaries and then stick to them. So if you have a client that is really, really freaked out about you withholding pieces of their deliverables, and they would rather just get the deliverable when it's done and be able to use it and implement it and whatnot, then maybe you should be on a payment plan, not a project fee, because then that sets you at ease to say, I've been compensated for the deliverables because they're paying me every 2 weeks, as opposed to they pay me 30% up front and 30% in the middle and 30% at the very end, right? So then there's that gratification of like, I have been compensated for my work. And that's what I do with a lot of my business majorly shifted in COVID, from working on like 1.5 year long contracts where I was doing a restaurant opening and staying on after they opened the actual physical space, to doing micro consulting, which is I work with a variety of different clients and I work 10 to 15 hours for them over the course of a month. So what we do is some of them want to pay once a month. Some of them want to pay every 2 weeks. And this is also a great thing about having a way for people to do payments online, is that you can just like set up a subscription. It comes out of their bank account and nobody is, once it's paid, it's paid. But it's important to just, like I said, it's not one size fits all. So there are going to be times when you need to be giving deliverables right away. And I say, trust your gut on how you will feel safest and most compensated for that.
Right on.
Cool.
Great.
All right. My last point, because I know we're running long and we're having a good time.
All good.
This is actually supposed to be 3. Be successful. Organization is key. Or did I plant that in there?
Whoa.
Okay. Organizational things. First and foremost, it is high time to get really, really good at email and tracking your hours. I know a lot of people in our industry who are very, very bad at email. If you need to know what email looks like, yeah. Yes. Let's talk offline about bad emailing. So this is important. Also, doing work twice is for the birds. Templates will save your life. Create your templates once. So if you have a spreadsheet where you do a cocktail menu build out, the information in the spreadsheet should change. Your spreadsheet, you should not be creating the same spreadsheet over and over again for every single client. Okay. So create your templates once, revise them as needed, insert new information and brand it for each client. This is the smartest workaround that anybody could ever do. And then keep those templates, because remember, you are protecting your energy. This is very, very important. Also, in line with tracking your hours, getting good at email, keep your receipts, keep all your signed documents. all of these things need to be part of your daily practices. I have a file folder over here. I have another one down here. I have everything digitized. You need to be able to call on these documents at any given point. So make sure you're organized. Utilize your Google Drive or whatever, Dropbox, whatever you want to use. Just get really organized with that. The last part is it might be new to a lot of people, but this is an overarching all business, regardless of industry. You need to create an action plan with each client. So I typically do a kickoff meeting where we create the action plan, which is where are we right now? Then step 2 is what is your end goal and the deadline? And then step 3 is to work backwards. If it's over the course of a couple months, you're going to want to do it work by week. If it's over the course of 5 years, which if you're opening a restaurant, I mean, you should have a 5-year plan no matter what. You should also have a 2-year plan. So work backwards from there with those actionable items in order to achieve the step before it. So then ideally at the end of this document, if you reordered everything, you would see a section about where you are right now. Then you would see every month planned out moving forward. And then you would see the end goal. And you basically just created a roadmap for how to get there. This is about building trust with your clients. It's also helping you build out your scope of work and making sure you can stick to it and you can be honest about deadlines and when you need more time. It's just super important. Action plans, they will change your life. In line with the action plan is also agendas. Write an agenda for every meeting, track your progress together. So agendas allow all parties to come prepared to discuss the items at hand. So my agendas vary from client to client. I have some clients that respond really well to having a list of questions that are sent out at the end of the meeting before so that they can think about it for a week or two, right? I will get to that question in a second because I was about to talk about it. So agendas, super important.
You're talking to the computer, by the way.
I know. I am. It's about time tracking. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Yes, I know.
Send the agenda out a couple of days in advance so that both you and the client can make some revisions. You can add things that are top of mind. I work with a lot of clients that have small businesses, and we talk about building systems for staff. They might have a staff person quit the day before their meeting. If they don't have the agenda, they can't throw it in there, right? And then it might derail your whole meeting. Then you're wasting time. It just has a domino effect. So agendas are really important. Every agenda ends with homework for you and for the client. This also allows you to, over time, mull over subject matter and prepare questions, and then set and keep regular meetings. No excuses, no matter what, keep your regular meeting. So, time tracking. Whether you are paid hourly or a project rate, you need to track your hours. I use an app. It's free. It's called Hours Tracker. The icon is a little blue piggy bank with a clock in the middle of it. It's free. It's easy. You can set. There is a paid version which gives you unlimited stuff, but you can set different projects and you can clock in, clock out. You can set a hourly rate on there. It's pretty great. It is important though, regardless of how you're getting paid, whether it's hourly or by the project, that you track your hours, because I learned this the hard way. When I started out, I was charging a certain amount of money that was not nearly what it needed to be. And I was putting in more time than I was documenting. And so anybody who's worked a salaried position has gotten to a point of frustration where they go to their calculator and they divide the number of hours they worked that week by their salary divided by 52. And then they're heartbroken because they just made less than $10 an hour. So all this to say, track your hours and then audit your hourly rate. Yeah. It will help you realize and quantify what you can accomplish in an hour and then charge accordingly for it. So you're also learning, and that is full circle.
Nice. The problem is when you do that hourly math and you realize you're the person paying yourself the hourly, and then you can only be mad at yourself. I run into frequently, but
yeah.
Super rad, very cool. Especially the agenda piece. I do agendas and recaps, but 2 days in advance is extremely ambitious. So that's impressive. Kudos.
I actually, especially if you're like taking notes and everybody has homework, it becomes a lot easier if you get in that homework aspect, because then that's already 2 or 3 things you can put on the agenda to check in on. So
right, 100%. There is not a question but a comment. 26 years of consulting for the craft brewing industry. Your presentation is excellent. Wish I had it when I started.
That is the general consensus for all freelancers. And I actually was thinking about it today that I very rarely get asked to talk about consulting. And I think we would all benefit more from having more people teach on this sort of thing and be
totally. I mean, it's honestly, even for me, it's good to just think about these things that I use similar systems of to manage different, companies and projects that I work on, and just kind of rethink about them. So I think everybody needs to learn about it, refresh it, keep learning, as you say. And then Jeremy says, drinks on him if you come to Martha's Vineyard for your efforts here.
Oh my gosh, I'd love to go to Martha's Vineyard.
There you go. Sounds lovely. Yeah, we're all coming. Cool.
Road trip.
I guess we should make a cocktail here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, let's get to that. Because we've done questions along the way. Let's bring in Steva Casey. What's going on?
How are you? This was great. I love a time tracker app as a person who works on a bunch of different projects at one time, so that I can see which one I'm spending the most time on and not spend a bunch of time on one project. And or if I spend way more time on one project, I charge that person more.
Yes. That's 201, Steva. We just went into 201.
I mean, listen, this is why I wanted you to do this seminar, because I think that a bunch of people think that they can be freelancers and they don't want to.
I would agree with that. I think it's similar to brand work, right? Everybody is really stoked to have the brand job, but they don't realize that there is a lot of work that is behind the scenes, and a lot of organization that you have to have. It's not just dropping a company card. And I'm sure all the brand people watching this are like, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Looks good on Instagram stories, that's for sure.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, Chelsea, I'm going to make this drink and you're going to talk to us about it.
Cool. So, very aptly named. It's the question I get all the time. Can I pick your brain? So this is using the Appleton 8, which is just delightful. Bringing in some tropical flavors with the pineapple juice, but also with sorrel and cinnamon syrup. Bringing in some baking spices, some delicious sorrel, which if you haven't had sorrel, it's amazing. So go get yourself some. It's fruity and floral and delightful. And then a little bit of green chartreuse, because they did just have 1605. So I was excited about that. And who doesn't love a little chartreuse?
And I'm VEPing it only because this is
nice.
Open.
201 on more than one level.
Right? I'm bougie on accident.
So Steven's teaching 201. It's right now.
Yeah.
This is like, I love a drink over crushed ice, but sometimes I want to be able to enjoy things a little bit longer. And when I have crushed ice, I just like house something. So this is a nice little porch sipper, something you can spend a little more time with, but it still has all those great tropical flavors.
Yeah, nice. You look, it's pretty electric over there.
I don't know why my camera is doing that.
That's pretty fun though.
It's very psychedelic.
Yeah, it's like 90. It's like 90.
It's probably 201. I'm in the future.
There you go. Yeah, Back to the Future.
I'm just becoming more and more digitized as time goes on.
Wow, that's
the sorrel in this is super aromatic, so I didn't garnish it. I just let it kind of do its thing, speak for itself. And yeah. Cheers to you, Steva.
Cheers to you.
Yeah, looks delicious.
I love a drink in a beautiful glass. I don't think it needs garnish.
Yeah, agreed.
So, perfect.
All right. Let's throw up your contact info so people can pick your brain.
Yeah. Once you start consulting, you get that question a lot. And I think that there is merit to setting boundaries for yourself. So if you email me and you ask for consulting, I might ask to talk about a scope of work. But most of the time, I'm very forthcoming and giving information freely. So please feel free to email with all of your questions. Follow me on Instagram. You can also follow the church journey a little bit there as things evolve. And then my company is Drinkable Genius, and you can find us at drinkablegenius.com.
Awesome. You got an invite to Fiji too. You got a lot of invites stacking up here.
I love this.
Yeah. Fiji. Just a hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah.
It's like going ocean.
Be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Listen, Chelsea, if you need a consulting partner for Fiji, here I am.
Oh,
hey, let's go. That'd be awesome.
Amazing. All right. Great job. We'll be right back with you. Don't go anywhere. We're going to get to our 5 questions here. Let's bring on Aaron. Look at this guy. Jose, what's up?
What's going on?
Aaron's ready for Seeker.
Let's go. Let's go.
Can't even see his eyes. I can just tell. The energy.
No.
All right. Jose.
What's up?
Let's talk. Describe Wildwood.
It's like stepping back into time a little bit. It's beautiful. It's I don't know. It's like going to Disneyland, but better, I think.
Oh wow. That's a new slogan. Wildwood.
Yeah.
Disneyland, but better.
Yeah.
You're in the wrong spot.
Like retro. It's it's like, wow, this is cool. Nothing really has changed here in some little areas.
Right.
See a bunch of abandoned hotels, but the Barcelona hotel is legit.
There you go. Shout out to the Barcelona. All right, let's go to weirdest Wildwood experience. Weirdest. Well,
we went to the carnival, to the what is it, the boardwalk?
Boardwalk.
Yes. And we went and took vintage photos. Brooke from New York and one of her friends, I forget his name, and we dressed in opposite clothing. So she dressed up in like a tuxedo, vintage tuxedo, and we dressed up in flapper dresses. And then we had a lot of people just walking by looking at us, and they were like, what's going on? So we had like an audience by the end of the photo shoot, because they were like, oh, do you have
autographs, getting people excited.
Oh yeah, that was super fun. I still have the photos. I should have
always seen that, maybe twice, the old-timey photos being taken. It's a classic, as is the airbrush, another classic.
Oh, an airbrush. I love an airbrush.
So, all right. Favorite thing about a tree memory. Favorite memory.
Me?
Yeah, this is all questions for you.
Waking up with a bottle of El Dorado next to me that I didn't know what happened, how it got there.
cradling it in your arms.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, this is not good.
Steve
That had to be the first night. That had to be the first night.
It was the first night.
Steve is just shaking her head.
Oh,
Nothing to
Lord.
say.
Yeah.
It was on accident, of course.
I'm not making Birmingham proud right now. All right. Favorite meal not made by my dad. Favorite meal.
Ooh, the boil, the like, what was that? The shrimp boil? Was that
Well,
made right
he
there?
made that, so you got to get another one.
Oh my god.
It's all right.
No. The pig roast on the pier. That was
there you
awesome.
go. That's a good one. That is
Yeah.
good. Shout out to Chris. I didn't go there when I was there. I need to go there.
There was,
Chelsea said, did the same thing.
yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Oh.
Joining the chat. All right. Tell us what you've been up to. What's going on? This is to you, Jose.
To me, Birmingham has I run the beverage program at Automatic Seafood, which is a seafood-centric restaurant, seafood and oysters.
Great name.
So the restaurant is in an old building that used to make sprinkler systems, and it was called Automatic. So we the chef and his wife paid homage to the building. All through Birmingham, you'll see the Automatic metal plates on buildings. So it's kind of cool as you go to Automatic, but you also walk through the city. You see that Automatic through the city. So I've been working on that, and then just trying to stay sane with all the different changes, kind of evolving into what the restaurant has. It's changed so much from when we opened doing just curbside to opening up in the middle of the summer and doing dining, but only outside, and almost 100-degree weather. People are complaining. Yeah, it's been really fun.
Got it.
But just working, living my best life at slinging oysters and fish, and of course a lot of wine and cocktails.
Right on. Steva, what I miss?
I don't think you missed anything. We talk about our next session.
Let's throw it up. Nico DeSoto, Modern Techniques at Home.
Hell yeah.
Modern Techniques at Home. So this will be a fun one. He'll try and distill down all this fancy equipment he has at Mace and talk to us about how we can stumble around it at home. Always entertaining. When you can understand him, I'll try and interpret his French accented English for everybody. But just saw him in person. Excited about what's going on with him. And thanks everybody for being here. Chelsea killed it. Jose, keep doing what you're doing. Everybody else, we'll see you in the future or the past. Wherever we are. Wherever Steve is, that's where I want to be.
Listen, I made it back to Earth. Against my better judgment, I came back.
Not as fun.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much. We're out of here.
See ya.